السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. You can please ask the brothers to move forward so we can leave room. Many more people are expected to come, inshallah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. All praises are due to Allah. We worship Him and we give our gratitude to Him. And we bear witness that there is no God but Allah, singular, no partners for Him. And we bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah and His servant. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give His blessings and His salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad, of which he is most deserving, and upon the companions and those that followed his path until the day of judgment. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. In the 8th year of the Hijrah, the city of Mecca had lost most of its population. By that point, most of the people had deserted or had fled away. Even the top-ranking officials and tribal leaders of the city had abandoned it. By the 8th year of the Hijrah, they knew there was no point resisting. And in the first few days of the month of Ramadan, right after Salat al-Fajr, the news finally came that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions and his army had surrounded the city. The army numbered 10,000, an army like which the Arabian Peninsula had never seen before. So much so that when some of the Quraysh sent scouts to see the army, they thought it was a Roman army, because there was no way an Arab army could be that big. And the Rasul ﷺ had a contingent for every side of the city, and they all entered at once. A few enthusiastic young people from the city tried to resist and tried to put up a fight, but they were quickly dispatched and there was no resistance. They weren't even killed. The Rasul ﷺ finally emerged at the front of the city, riding his camel Qaswa, and it is narrated that his head was bowed in humility until his forehead almost touched the back of his camel. And the whole time he was just saying, Allahu Akbar kabira walhamdulillahi kathira wa subhanallahi bukratan wa asila. Complete humility. The Muslims came from every direction, and the few residents of Mecca left were fearful and afraid that this was the time that Muhammad ﷺ was going to take his revenge. And that was his intention, but not against the people. The Rasul ﷺ rode his camel until he reached the Bayt al-Haram, the Kaaba itself. And with Abu Bakr, they took the keys of the Kaaba and entered it, and began cleansing it from all the idols that were inside. جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. He kept repeating this verse from the Quran. Truth has come and falsehood has been vanquished, and it is the nature of falsehood to be vanquished. And the Sahaba began eliminating and eradicating any sign of idolatry left in the city. Every statue, every idol, every sacrificial podium that was left in the city, all the pictures of angels and prophets that were drawn and stuck on the Kaaba were ripped and shredded, until there was nothing left of Mecca except La ilaha illallah. When the Rasul ﷺ made his first and only Hajj about a year later, it was estimated that there were 100,000 Muslims. The number had grown exponentially since the last time they had come to Mecca. And from then on till now, the city of Mecca would never ever be a city other than a city of La ilaha illallah. And from that first Hajj till this day, every year, millions and thousands of Muslims have been doing the pilgrimage to Mecca. And it is a sign of the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, even that the Surah Al-Nasr came down at this point. The Surah of victory. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. When the victory of Allah comes and you see people entering Islam in waves, and that was literally what was happening. Every day a contingent tribe would come and give their bay'ah to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They would give their pledge. And we are in the days of Dhul Hijjah now, and still, after all these centuries, we're still seeing the Hajj continue from that day. And it is a beautiful sight that anyone, even a non-Muslim, can appreciate when they open the television or open a live feed and see millions upon millions of people, all dressed in the same way, all saying the same words, all rotating around the Kaaba in unison. It is truly a spectacle and a sign of the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the izzah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave His religion. It is estimated that last year alone, 20,000 Muslims did Hajj from this country alone. And honestly, I think it's more than that. Statistics are very difficult. Last year it was estimated 2.3 or 2.4 million people did the Hajj. And subhanAllah, whenever the Hajj season comes, it's a beautiful time to reflect upon the Ummah. In this country, once a year we have something called the State of the Union. I like to think of Hajj as the state of the Ummah. For the young people who don't know what the word Ummah means, Ummah is the nation of Muslimin. It doesn't belong to any one country or one ethnicity or one race. We are all part of the Ummah, whatever country we come from. And when anyone who's ever gone to Hajj realizes how many Muslims there are in the world and from how many countries they come from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from the Middle East, from India, millions and millions of brothers and sisters from around the world. And if we were going to take this and say that Hajj is a time to do a state of the Ummah, to reflect what the Ummah is like and how it's changed since the last year, if we were really able to do this and really decided to take on this burden, wallahi, it would be a little disappointing. The state of the Ummah, frankly, can be summarized in one word: sad. All around the world, subhanAllah, may Allah protect us. If we can ask the brothers to move forward a little more. Jazakallah khair. All around the world, anyone who identifies as a Muslim is being persecuted. And I don't shy away from using the words that Muslims in certain places are being exterminated. Exterminated, like almost like they're a pest, like cockroaches. I don't hesitate to use the word, it's genocide. And every couple of months, a new ethnicity and a new region of the world crops up where this is happening. Whether it's the Rohingya in Burma, or the Muslims of China. Ethnic cleansing is happening all over the world. In Kashmir, every day it's a new headline, and it's just a statistic. This many refugees, this many murders, this many killings. To a point where even in the first world, as we call it in quotations, Muslims are not even safe. In Europe and the United States, the number of hate crimes against Muslims has almost doubled in the last 2 years. And the viciousness has increased as well, as we've seen in places like New Zealand. And Sadaqa Rasulullah ﷺ when he said there will come a time where the believer is more humiliated than an ugly goat. What does that mean really if we were going to translate it to our times? If you were driving up to this masjid and you saw a dead deer on the side of the road, roadkill, that is what the Rasul ﷺ really meant. Because back then, an ugly goat that had no meat on it, if it died, nobody would care. They just leave it for the vultures. And that's what happens too in New Jersey when a deer dies. It's just left on the side of the road until the municipality takes care of it. And wallahi, that is what's happening to believers and to Muslims all over the world. They are more humiliated than roadkill. The World Population Review last year made a list of 11 states that they deemed as failed states, where there is no economic or political sanctuary at all. Out of those 11 regions of the world, 7 of them are Muslim countries. 7. Another review, the Human Development Index, where they grade how much infrastructure and how much development is happening in the country. It's a grade that the United Nations gives to certain countries. The lowest one in the world, where there's basically no infrastructure, is a Muslim country. It's Yemen. And it begs the question, in this Hajj season, while we're doing this state of the Ummah, as I call it, it's very strange because we just said that there were 2.3 million Muslims going to Hajj. And all of those people are in their ihram. And all of those people are raising their hands up to the sky, and they're crying, and they're drinking Zamzam water and making dua before they drink, and they're touching the black stone, and they're making dua. And millions of Muslims outside of Mecca are fasting today, and they'll be fasting tomorrow, and they'll be doing dua as well. And everyone is making dua for the ummah, for the ummah, for the ummah. And yet every year the ummah seems to be getting worse. And it begs the question, because we were taught, and we're still taught, that Allah is Sami'u Du'a, that Allah hears our dua and He answers. So why is it that when millions of people raise their hands to Allah, Ya Allah, save the ummah, we've been making dua for Masjid Al-Aqsa for decades. Does Allah not hear us? Does Allah not accept our dua at some point? What happened? We are taught, and the Quran explicitly says, Inna Allah Sami'u Du'a. Didn't Allah say that He will give victory to this religion? Inna jundana lahumul ghalibun. That Allah is going to give victory to this religion? Aren't we on the truth, and those against us, aren't they on the batil? Aren't they on the falsehood? Why do we seem to be losing? Why does the situation seem to be getting worse and worse and worse? And even for us living in developed countries, where it's facing different problems, where each generation is loosening its grip on the religion. People seem to be less inclined to come to the masjid, less inclined to learn Quran. In fact, we have a very scary statistic of atheism rising up. So what's happening? Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not answering our du'as? Why isn't Allah giving us the victory? I started this khutbah with the story of Rasul entering Mecca. Beautiful victory. Destroying idolatry. His enemies could not defeat him. They couldn't even resist. Mecca had the banner of La ilaha illallah on it. Bilal climbed up on top of the Kaaba and gave the adhan. A beautiful scene. But if we take that out of context, we might be a little delusioned. Because it took years for the Rasul ﷺ to reach that point. And the Rasul ﷺ and his companions, who are far better than us and endured far worse than us, did not get the victory of Allah like that. It didn't come to them on a silver platter. In fact, the question that we ask, where and when is the victory of Allah, is the very same question that the companions of the Rasul ﷺ used to ask, to a point where it's even recorded in the Quran. One of the companions of the Rasul ﷺ, very famous companion, Khabbab ibn Arad, he was a slave, and his master, she used to torture him in such a terrible way. She used to put burning coals on his back and put hot iron rods on his back until his back became like craters, almost like the surface of the moon. It had like grooves and craters in it because she burnt him so many times. And all of this just because he was a Muslim, to a point where Khabbab couldn't take it anymore. And he came to the Rasul ﷺ, and he had seen the Rasul ﷺ be persecuted and physically assaulted, and his family and friends being attacked. He saw Bilal ibn Rabah being crushed under a stone. He saw Mus'ab ibn Umair locked up and imprisoned in his own home. He saw Ammar ibn Yasir tied up and his family murdered in front of him. And Khabbab just couldn't take it anymore, and he came to the Rasul ﷺ. And he said, where is the victory of Allah? Why can't Allah just save us all from all of this? And the Rasul ﷺ got very serious. And he said, Wallahi, there were people before you, they would be sawed in half slowly, and they would not give up La ilaha illallah. So it's very interesting that the people that we talk about, heroes, the Sahaba and the Prophets, they ask the same question that we ask. Where is the victory of Allah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself answers. أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يأتيكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم مستهم البأساء والضراء وزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب. Did you think that you would enter Jannah and you would not taste what those before you tasted? They were afflicted with hardship and calamity, and they were shaken until the believers and the Prophet would say, when is the victory of Allah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers, أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. The victory of Allah is near. In the next couple of minutes, we'll be going over some of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delays His victory. And we can ask the brothers one more time to move forward. There's plenty of room. إِذَا قِيلَ لَكُمْ تَفَسَّحُوا فِي الْمَجَالِسِ فَافْسَحُوا يَفْسَحِ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. The number one reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows the hardships on the Muslims and the people that believe in Him is number one as a test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ankabut, Alif Lam Mim, أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Did the people think that it would be enough for them to say we believe and they would not be tested? It's not that easy. La ilaha illallah, welcome to Jannah. It's not that easy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test your faith. And for some people in the world, like those persecuted minorities and those persecuted ethnicities over the world, that test comes in the form of the same test the Sahaba went through. They'll be persecuted, they'll be hunted down. Their lives will be in danger. But this is a test to see how strongly will they hold on to La ilaha illallah. How strongly will they hold on to their faith. And it's a test for us as well, because when we don't go through these things and we live in so much ease, the question comes, why do we give up our religion so easily? These people will be a witness against us on the Day of Judgment. When we try to blend in and try to act like non-Muslims and try to hide who we are, we change our names, we change the way we dress, and we give up certain things in our religion just so that we can fit in. These people who go through this persecution, they will be a witness against us on the Day of Judgment. Actually, these verses of Surah Al-Ankabut came down when Ammar ibn Yasir's family were murdered. And on that time, nobody could really help them except Allah. Even the Rasul ﷺ stood there, he couldn't do anything, and he was crying. He said, Sabran ya ala Yasir. He said, be patient, O family of Yasir, فَإِنَّ مَوْعِدُكُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. You're going to go to Jannah. That's your appointment. The second reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delays His victory is so that He can make you deserving of Jannah. Number one was to test your faith. Number two was to make you deserving of Jannah. One of the greater themes of Eid al-Adha and al-Hajj, the word Adha literally means like sacrifice. And we all know the story behind Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. He had to almost sacrifice his son. We will all be asked on the Day of Judgment, what have you sacrificed for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And if each of us asks this question, sometimes it can be hard to answer. Honestly, sometimes the answer is not much. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make us deserving of Jannah, to expiate our sins, He puts us through these hardships. And if we're patient and we continue to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the world does right now. Wallahi, in some places we have nothing but raising our hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have nothing but raising our hands, Ya Allah, you're all we have. When you go through this hardship and you come out patient, Allah makes you deserving of His mercy and makes you deserving of Jannah. And know that every time a believer goes through something, and as the Quran says, that they don't go through anything. They don't even go through cutting through a valley or any hardship or sadness that afflicts them, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes for them a great reward. So when Muslims go through this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is writing the reward for them. And He's expiating their sins so that when they come on the Day of Judgment, they have nothing. Nothing, no sins, They have no sins, they have nothing but patience. That, Ya Allah, we went through all of these hardships and we were patient for you. We were displaced from our homes. Our families were separated. Some of us were killed. We were persecuted. We were tortured. All for your sake, Ya Allah. And wallahi, at the end of the day, all of these people that are being persecuted throughout the ummah are only being persecuted because they're Muslim. Let's get right down to it. There's no other reason. The third reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might delay his victory is so that we can build a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sad truth is, the human being most of the time will not go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until he's desperate. That's the vast majority. We all feel like we're in control, we all feel like we're safe until we're out of control. Until we have no say in the matter, until we're in a desperate situation. Like I said before, the whole world is raising their hands at the Kaaba. The whole world is raising their hands in qiyam and in qunut and making dua during Ramadan. Because we see the misery happening in the news, and we see the misery of our brothers and sisters, and we feel helpless. It really burns your heart when you see these things, and you wish you had the power and the resources to make a difference, but you can't. So what do? You raise your hands to Allah. And that's where the relationship comes in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes has to teach us that we need Him, He doesn't need us. Yes, this is the religion of Allah. But Allah, غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِن تَكْفُرُوا أَنْتُمْ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. If every single person in the world disbelieves in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is sufficient from us. He doesn't need us. So He allows hardships to afflict the Muslims. He allows this to happen to the Muslims. Why? So that we can learn to go back to Him. And for those of us who are living in ease, it's a reminder for us, yes, we are living in ease today, but that's only because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed it. And if we are in their situation tomorrow, if Allah decrees that we become in their situation, and we always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for afiyah, Allahumma atina al-afiyah. If we ever get into their situation, it is also because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees it. It has nothing to do with our cleverness or our piety. Like I said, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best human in the world, went through numerous hardships that none of us could handle. Multiple assassination attempts on him, displaced from his home, physically assaulted, ridiculed. All of these things, when you keep them in mind, it builds a picture of a relationship between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His believers. The final point is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always going to bring justice. But to Allah, this dunya is not worth it. What do I mean by this? لو كانت الدنيا تعدل عند الله مثقال جناح بعوضة. There's a hadith that says, if the dunya was worth to Allah the wing of a mosquito, if this whole dunya, the whole earth, the whole life you could live, was worth to Allah a wing of a mosquito, He would not give a disbeliever that amount of water. So a difficult analogy to think about, but what it means is that even if, and that's a big if, this dunya was worth the wing of a mosquito, and that's insinuating and implying that it's not even worth that, Allah wouldn't even give that amount to the disbelievers. So when we see non-Muslims and the enemies of Islam, and we see them, and they seem to be in victory, they seem to be economically sound, militarily superior, politically powerful, they seem to have everything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us that, no, this isn't worth anything to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the dunya to those He likes and those He dislikes, but He only gives the akhirah to those He likes. وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not despair and do not be sad, and you are on top if you're believers. إِيَمْسَسْكُمْ قَرْحٌ فَقَدْ مَسَّ الْقَوْمَ قَرْحٌ مِثْلُهُ. If you are afflicted with hardship, then the people before you were afflicted with hardship. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. These hard days, we distribute them evenly amongst the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala This dunya is not worth anything to him. Yes, he may choose in certain times. Sometimes the Muslims are on top. Muslims went through a golden age a long time ago. Now maybe we're in a dark age. Maybe next year we'll be in a good spot again. Allahu Alam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala distributes good and bad days to people all over the world, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim. This is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he's trying to show us that this dunya is not worth it. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. You are on top if you're believers, means that no matter what, whether you're living in a good state or a bad state in this dunya, you are on top because you are believers, because on the day of judgment, you will come with Jannah and they will come with nothing. And all of this is to show us that this dunya is only a temporary space. And if Allah doesn't give you this, so what? What's the worst that can happen to us here is that we get killed. What happens after that? Jannah. It burns our souls when we see innocent children getting killed on TV. But for a believer, it's a bittersweet moment because we know that that person is a shaheed and that person is going to Jannah. The same can't be said from the other side. In conclusion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says in the Quran, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ غَافِلًا عَمَّا يَعْمَلُ الظَّالِمُونَ إِنَّمَا يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ لِيَوْمٍ تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارُ. Do not ever think that Allah is oblivious to what the oppressors are doing. He is delaying it for a day, تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارُ, a day when everybody can see their punishment and everyone can see their humiliation. Allah is delaying the injustice that's going on, the justice. He's going to delay it for a day where the whole world can see. فَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ مُخْلِفَ وَعْدِهِ رُسُلَهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ ذُو انْتِقَامٍ. Don't you dare think that Allah is going to break His promise. Yes, the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. But it's going to take some time, and we have to be patient. And maybe we might not see it in our lifetime. But وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ, we will be on top on the day of judgment. And we will see the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the akhirah if we don't see it in the dunya. And during this Hajj season, as millions of people flock back to the house of Allah that was liberated so many centuries ago, we need to remember that, yes, it took a long time and there was so much to get to that point. But look how far we've come as well. It's a bit of an interesting thing that not a lot of people think about. The city of Mecca itself has almost quadrupled in size since the time of Rasulullah to accommodate for the people that come to Hajj. So when people are doing their tawaf, they don't know that they're walking over historical sites. For example, people are spinning around, are doing tawaf around the Kaaba and literally walking on the space where Abu Jahl's house used to be. This enemy of Allah who dedicated his whole life to torturing Muslims, from now till the day of judgment where his house used to be, people are saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Not a lot of people think of that. Islam is still the fastest growing religion in the world. And actually, if you make the statistics a little fairer, can we have to ask the brothers, sorry, one more time. I still see there's some space. If we can try as much as possible to accommodate. Jazakumullah khair. The statistics still show that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. Maybe a decade ago, people thought this was the end of Islam in America, that Islam would never recover in America. And now we have Muslim people in Congress. The victory of Allah will come. We have to be patient and we have to be people that keep seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most we can do is make dua to Him and ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us, because wallahi we need His help. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يا عبادي. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم We bear witness that there is no God but Allah, singular, no partners for Him, and we bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah and His servant. Brothers and sisters, some updates and some public service announcements. First and foremost, we'd like to make dua for two sisters who are ill and who need our dua. So just as we were saying that, the ummah needs dua, we need to make dua first and foremost for our community. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to heal our sisters in Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for them and to bring them back to health. Allahumma ishfi anta shafi la shifa illa shifa'u, shifa la yughadiru saqaman. As for the announcements for Eid, we had already made an announcement, but we'll reiterate. The Eid al-Adha prayer, inshallah, will be on Sunday. It will be at the Sportica complex. It's in Manal-Bin, on the both doors, both upstairs in the sisters area and here. There's a poster that has the exact address, but if you search up Sportica, Sportika, it's in Manal-Bin. The Eid prayer will start at 9 a.m. The takbirat will start at 8 a.m. We've heard a lot of feedback since the last Eid, and I'm happy to say that the youth have a much bigger role in planning this Salatul Eid. That being said, however, it's time for the community to come together. I've been asked to call out. We need as many volunteers as possible for tomorrow and for the day of Salatul Eid. Brothers, sisters, young, old, it doesn't matter. As a community, we need to come together and take up the responsibility collectively. We're trying to move away from one person doing everything. And I'm guilty of this all the time, but inshallah, we can work together as a community to try to make this better. So if anybody is interested in helping out and volunteering, I will be here after the salah to give details and to give any specific tasks that people might want to do. If anyone wants to, do labor or manpower, donate. We have a lot of need. Inshallah, the week after Eid, on Saturday, we've been doing it. This is the second year we've been doing it. We have our Eid carnival here in the Masjid. We've been getting more and more people coming, and the feedback has been great. Alhamdulillah, this is a project that I'm directly related in. Last Eid, we had an amazing time, and the families had great feedback for us. We'll be doing it again, inshallah. The posters are on the doors as well, and they're on social media. And for those who want to volunteer for that as well, we need all the volunteers we can. But we highly encourage everyone to attend, bring their families, bring their friends. This is a time, brothers and sisters, for the ummah to come together, for the community to come together. For collective tasks, for collective celebration. This is, at the end of the day, is Eid al-Adha, a time where we should be coming together. This is our holiday. We only get 2 holidays in the year. Let's make them count. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our sins. Anything that I said correct is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any mistake is from me, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me for that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept the Hajj of the Hujjaj this year and to bring them back safely. Ya Allah, we ask those who haven't done the Hajj yet to give them the opportunity to visit your holy house. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all the Muslims throughout the world. All the Muslims that are calling out to you, Ya Allah, they have nobody except you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save the Muslims in China, to save the Muslims in Kashmir and Rohingya, to save the Muslims in Yemen and Syria and Palestine. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها اللهم من أراد بالإسلام والمسلمين خيرا فوفقه إلى كل خير ومن أراد بالإسلام والمسلمين شرا فخذه أخذ عزيز مقتدر اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين أم حسب الذين يعملون السيئات أن يسبقونا ساء ما يحكمون من كان يرجو لقاء الله فإن أجل الله لآت وهو السميع العليم ومن جاهد فإنما يجاهد لنفسه إن الله لغني عن العالمين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.